This is a video on Classic Plus. It's a video by Hammerdance, a creator we have seen some videos from in the past. It's been a couple of days now since the last one. Well, actually, it's been a couple of weeks since the last one. But this one right here, this is how progression should work in Classic Plus. Let's see what he has to say. If it's a regular walk and talk video, by the way, with him being on the left side, I'm probably gonna move myself to a different part than in the left corner. Unless it's fine. We'll see, okay?
What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about something that I've actually never talked about on this channel, and I wanted to make a video on it because our good friend Jerdy posted a really good Wowhead article on this topic. And the topic is on horizontal versus vertical progression in Classic WoW and moving forward into Classic Plus, and some really good examples of how horizontal progression could work in Classic Plus if Blizzard keeps that same model, right? People don't realize that in vanilla and even in TBC to some extent, Classic WoW did have a lot of horizontal progression, meaning progression that kind of went sideways instead of just spiking your power and going just straight up with gear. Yes, that does inevitably happen in every single version of WoW, but Jerdy really did give a bunch of good examples from vanilla WoW that were kind of horizontal progression.
Just so you guys don't think that I'm intentionally covering the Hammerdance logo down here, by the way. Hammerdance streams on Kick. Okay, it's there. He streams on Kick. I'm going to go down to the bottom left again, so I don't cover his face. But yeah, Hammerdance is streaming on Kick. As am I.
And you know, he gave examples of how they could do this in Classic Plus. So I wanted to go over this article with you guys because I really agree with pretty much everything he said. And I think that if Blizzard reads this and takes some of these ideas, it could be phenomenal, right? We do know that Classic WoW, it's not going to be as horizontal as a game like old school RuneScape because it's just not built that way, right? RuneScape is built completely different. You could play the entire game just skilling without doing combat in any way, shape, or form, leveling your skills to 99. Yes, there's some things you have to do combat to achieve, especially if you're trying to quest in RuneScape, but you could play the entire game as just a miner or just, you know, a woodcutter, whatever you want to do. In Classic WoW, it's not so much the case. You level up. You get to your end game raid, the next raid comes out, you get that gear, the next raid comes out, you get that gear, the next raid comes out, you get that gear. But we can use Classic WoW's design and kind of take some things that they did in vanilla and expand on that in Classic Plus to get that horizontal progression. And Jerdy really did a good job at explaining how Blizzard could do this. So let's pull up the article and look at it. So in the Wowhead article, you know, he referenced Willie's last video where he kind of talked about this exact same thing. And then he goes into explaining what vertical and horizontal progression really means. So we're going to read through this together. Vertical progression is something World of Warcraft players are used to. In vertical progression, new content means new raids, which means the old content becomes obsolete. We see this more in modern World of Warcraft with each patch and season as PvP resets and players will often replace a lot of their gear from the previous patch through entry-level content like the campaign, delves, and lower-level mythic keys. The positive to this is that players can come back whenever they want without having to grind old content and feel as though they are behind. The negative, however, is that old content becomes irrelevant, and players do not need to do the old content outside of collection content or achievements. A player just joining the game will not be able to experience the older content authentically. The current raid in the War Within is Manaforge Omega. The previous raids, Liberation of the Undermine and Nerubar Palace, offer no vertical progression. As Azeroth continues to grow, it only creates more space in the world as players do not need to go back. In Classic WoW, players are...
I will say, by the way, in Classic, if there was a horizontal versus vertical curve, it's way more vertical in retail WoW than it is in Classic. Classic is slightly more horizontal than retail would be, and what I mean by that is that in retail, if a new patch comes out, all your gear is basically now outdated. Literally all of it is outdated. Some of it is literally useless as well, and there's no point in going back to the old raid for the most part. You have very specific scenarios where, yes, you can go back and get like a trinket that helps you for a while, or a ring that helps you for a while. You had like the ring from the Siren Isle, right, that helped you for a while. even in the next patch as well. So if you came back for Mana Forge, you could still go back and do that to get a good starter ring. You also had the Voltaic Charger Belt, or whatever the name was, like the deliver thing, right? Which was also good for a while. But the point is, the second you go from patch A to patch B, all of the patch A content is basically outdated now, and patch B replaces it. In Classic, it's not really the case. You still have some items from Molten Core that are still good very late in Classic as well, and you have some trinkets or weapons from Blackwing Lair that are also very good until late in Classic. Some are even best in slot as well, until like TBC basically, especially trinkets and / or rings.
Have many reasons to go back into previous zones and raids. Some examples are, until Naxxramas, a warrior's best in slot belt and ring come from Molten Core. Warrior and Paladin tanks' best weapon is the legendary Thunder Fury Blessed Blade of the Windseeker for the entire game, and players who seek out the rewards from Imperial Karaji armaments in Ahn'Qiraj will need Elementium ore, which drops in the previous raid, Blackwing Lair. Even when just hitting max level, a warrior will want to go into mid-level 40s dungeons like Maraudon for their Blackstone ring, which is a pre-raid best in slot ring option. These are examples of horizontal gearing progression. And I'm not going to read his entire article. I just wanted to give you the basis of what he was talking about, the basis of what he was writing here. And he goes into great detail talking about, like, these really are good examples of horizontal progression in Classic WoW. And then he talks about how maybe in Classic Plus, if it's designed the right way, as future raids come out, they give you reasons to go back and raid Molten Core, right? Maybe there's some high-level mats you need to go into Molten Core to farm every week to craft a piece of gear in the latest raid tier. That's fantastic and awesome. These are ways that we can kind of keep the game alive without just continuously spiking your power and going up and up and up and up. You're maybe going at a diagonal, right? Think about it like that. You're going this way instead of straight up. Yes, you're in the latest raid tier and you're wearing all this new gear, but maybe you need to go back and do some of the older raids to achieve that level of gear. Stuff like that is really awesome. He goes into a great level of detail talking about attunements. And this is one that's a little bit controversial, right? Because attunements, they really are a great form of horizontal progression. You do need to do these attunements on every character you make and all that, so people are always running that content. Now, this one, like I said, is controversial because if we look at what we're doing in TBC this time around, they're doing a system in which... Oh, wait, is that ZG buff? Oh my god, it is. Let's get ZG buff. They're talking about how in TBC, that's coming out.
Bro just got a natty CG buff while recording a video. This is the luckiest man alive, dude. The RNG on that timing. Damn, dude.
Out soon. We are not going to need to do our attunements more than once. If you get attuned on your main character, any alts that you have will then, onward be attuned without having to do the attunements. Now, this is great. It makes the game very alt-friendly. And this is great because TBC, as we know it, this is kind of seasonal. We're not going to be playing TBC forever. This isn't Classic Plus. It's most likely going to move into Wrath, right? Whereas Classic Plus, if you want a game that's going to last forever and constantly have content and not have these lesser raid tiers and earlier content feel belittled and out, completely done where you don't need to do it anymore, having attunements in the game is good. And having you need to do them on every single character that you level is good as well, in my opinion, right? So I think that keeping attunements the way they are in vanilla is a really good way of keeping the world and old content alive. I agree with Jerdy 100% on this. I agree with what he said about, maybe crafting up some, mats that you have to go back into old raids to get to craft the newest level of gear. All of that stuff makes sense, and I think Blizzard really needs to pay close attention to this stuff because without that slightly horizontal progression, and again, we're not talking about RuneScape levels of horizontal progression. They're completely different games. Classic WoW is not designed in that way. It is pretty much designed with vertical progression as the main point of the game. That is how you progress your characters, and that's fine, but there's ways of keeping it so that you do have to run these old raids. Another prime example he gave, which every one of us knows that plays Classic WoW, is Onslaught Girdle for Warriors. I mean, you're raiding Molten Core even when you're in AQ40 because Onslaught Girdle is just that good. Things like this are, in my opinion, extremely important for Blizzard to implement in Classic Plus going forward. Because without this, if we make it so that the game is highly alt-friendly, super quick to just jump on alts and raid on all your characters and do all this stuff. That is inevitably what will kill the world in the older content. Classic WoW has been around for 20 years, and Anniversary's never been more popular than it is right now. People are playing this game for like the 5th time, and there's no like fast tracking going on when it comes to attunements and all that stuff, and people are just doing it and still playing the game. I would argue and say that that is one of the most important things that Blizzard needs to look at when developing Classic Plus. If this really is going to be a permanent, like, constantly updated version of Classic WoW, you do need to kind of get rid of a lot of the shortcuts that we kind of have grown accustomed to in like all the seasonal versions of WoW that we've gotten. They don't really have any place in a permanent version of the game that's going to last forever. What's the rush? Do the attunement on all of your characters. You have to. Like, it keeps the world alive. It keeps those old raids alive. And I've never really talked about vertical versus horizontal progression in any of my videos. But when I read through this article that Jerdy put out, it really, like, I was like, yeah, I resonate with everything that he's saying here. I think this all really makes a lot of sense. And I wanted to kind of push this out to a larger group of you guys, because this article was probably the best take that I've ever seen on Classic Plus's progression and how it should work. I think it's really important, and I want to get your guys' opinions on it and kind of push this out to a wider audience. So if you guys want to check out Jerdy, I'll link his channels down in the description below. I'll link the Wowhead article as well if you guys want to read through the entire thing on your own. But I just wanted to give my take on it and how I just agree with pretty much everything he says in here. Classic Plus needs to have horizontal progression for it to live a long time and not just die after 6 months. If we get a repeat of pretty much how SOD worked, which SOD was a blast and a lot of fun, it was seasonal. It needed to be vertical. If we get...
Yeah, SOD was incredibly vertical, by the way. Way more vertical than I probably wanted it to be. But at least at the end, because the amount of the DPS we were doing at the end phase, it was just not classic to me, man. We were doing the same numbers that people were doing at the end of Wrath. Pretty much. Like, it's insane. We were doing level 80, best in slot gear numbers, DPS-wise. To me, it just felt really not classic. But to some people, maybe that was a part of the fun as well, just being super overpowered for once. But yeah, don't give us that level of vertical for Classic Plus at least. It was fine, like you said, in a seasonal server, but for Classic Plus, no thanks. We don't need that level of power by the end, or like even in the next raid either. I feel like the thing is, in Classic, in retail, they make the other raids obsolete. Like, it's so not worth doing. But in Classic, if we're going back to the curve, instead of being completely horizontal, there's a slight, like, uptick to it. And if you even just make every single raid upgrade your power by 10%, you need so many raids to come out before you even double your power. In retail, you sometimes double your power in one singular raid here. So instead of making so that after next they have to double our DPS, give us 10% upgrades. Even 5% upgrades. Like, people are going to lose their minds over a 5 to 10% upgrade. So don't have to go crazy when it comes to upgrading items. Keep it slightly vertical, but with, like, you have vertical versus horizontal, you want to be more here, but slightly up after a while, because completely horizontal is not classic either. It has to, like, get a little bit more powerful all the time.
A repeat of that, Classic Plus will not feel like it should. It's not going to feel like a permanent version of the game. It's going to feel seasonal again, and I think that's something that we really do need to avoid. But anyway, yeah, you guys go read through the article. Let me know what you think.
I think there's so many ways Blizzard could do this, by the way, making sure that all the raids are still relevant. And one of them is like they said here, just make sure you go and farm materials in all the raids. Like, for example, Elementium bars, Elementium ores, maybe add some new material other than Blood Divine and Set G as well. Give us some materials in AQ, and when it comes to Naxxramas, just make us able to use necrotic, whatever the name is, that I can't remember at the moment because I'm stupid. But yeah, just make frozen orbs as well. Frozen orbs and necrotic orbs and those things. Make them relevant in future crafts. And keep them relevant. And make them drop more from bosses, for example. Just add something that drops from bosses. And one thing that popped up in my head that I don't really know why, but I think it would be cool, is what if an item dropped in... whatever the new raid is, let's call it the Emerald Nightmare, or the Emerald Dream, or like some Emerald Dragon raid, right? And let's just say you got a weapon. But when you got this weapon, it also started a quest, and in order for you to get this weapon from this new raid, you have to imbue it with the power of other weapons. So you go back and you do Molten Core to imbue it with fire, and you need a certain item to drop from Molten Core for it. Let's just throw any, like, just put a name from a sword from Molten Core, and you have to get that one. And then you also have to get a sword from set G, you have to get a sword from AQ, and a sword from Naxxramas. And the reason for that is that Molten Core imbues this new weapon of yours with fire, set G imbues it with nature, AQ imbues it with earth, and Naxxramas imbues it with frost. And now you get a Master Blade of the Elements, which is a good, like, 10% upgrade compared to Naxxramas that you're getting from the new raid in Classic Plus. Just like tinfoil hat theory, just wanted to throw that out there, because to me that sounds kind of cool. You get an item, start a quest, but to complete this quest you have to go back and do all the raids, and hope for this certain item to drop, and you have to gather multiple of them. To me, that's, I mean, I don't know. I think that sounded like a cool idea. Let me know how stupid I am.
Check out Jerdy. I'll link his channels down below in the description. So much credit goes out to this guy. He really loves the game, and everything this man puts out is just amazing. Top tier content. So check out Jerdy, and let me know again what you guys think down in the comments below. I really want to get a discussion going about this and see if we could get this to reach many people. I want to see if people agree on this and you know, feel like this is the way that we should move forward with Classic Plus if Blizzard is watching. But anyways, guys, like the video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next time I post a video. We cover everything Classic WoW here on this channel. And follow me over on kick.com/hammerdance. We stream Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I'll see you.
Okay, there we go. That's the end of the video, guys. So, yeah, I don't really have anything to add here at the end. I feel like I pretty much added everything throughout the video, so let me know how you feel about vertical progression versus horizontal progression in Classic WoW and Classic Plus. And if anybody has any examples of how this could be done, like did you like my idea about having to go back and do raids to farm certain items or weapons and then combine them in some way, shape or form, or do you want to go back and do material farming? Just give me examples of how this could work in Classic WoW, and I would love to see what people are thinking here.